President Trump's recent push to annex Greenland has moved beyond rhetoric into active policy planning, creating one of the most serious internal fractures NATO has faced in decades. What once sounded like an unconventional political idea has now entered strategic briefings, intelligence discussions, and diplomatic agendas. The shift from suggestion to preparation has transformed Greenland into a flashpoint, forcing allies to confront uncomfortable questions about sovereignty, security, and power. At the center of this push is Trump's framing of Greenland as a national security imperative. He argues that the United States must own Greenland to prevent Russia or China from establishing a strategic foothold in the Arctic. While the 1951 Defense Treaty already allows a permanent U.S. military presence at Pituffik Space Base, Trump insists ownership grants defensive authority that no lease or agreement can fully provide. Trump's language has alarmed both allies and adversaries. During a January 9, 2026 meeting with oil executives, he stated the United States would do something on Greenland whether they like it or not. He described two paths forward: a negotiated deal, which he called the easy way, and the possibility of military action, referred to bluntly as the hard way. This framing marked a turning point. For NATO partners, the implication that force could be used against the territory of a member state shattered long-standing assumptions. Greenland, while geographically distant, is legally part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Any threat to it is not theoretical. It is, under NATO's charter, a direct challenge to the alliance's foundational principle of collective defense. Economic motivations further complicate the situation. The Trump administration is reportedly focused on Greenland's vast untapped reserves of rare earth minerals, oil, and natural gas. As Arctic ice melts, new shipping routes are opening, reducing transit times between major global markets. Control of these routes could reshape global trade, making Greenland not just strategically valuable, but economically transformative. Behind closed doors, U.S. officials are exploring unconventional tactics. One proposal reportedly under discussion involves direct payments to Greenland's population. Offers of up to $170,000 per person have been considered as a way to incentivize support for joining the United States. For a population of roughly 57,000 people, the plan signals how far Washington may be willing to go. Another option being explored is a compact of free association, similar to agreements the U.S. maintains with Micronesia and Palau. Under such a deal, Greenland would retain internal governance, while granting the United States full military control in exchange for protection, funding, and services. Critics argue this would amount to de facto annexation under another name. Reports have also surfaced of covert influence operations aimed at reshaping Greenland's political landscape. U.S.-backed actors are alleged to be supporting Greenland's independence movement, not necessarily to empower self-rule, but to weaken Denmark's authority. An independent Greenland, analysts suggest, would be far more vulnerable to American pressure and negotiation. Denmark's response has been unequivocal. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has warned that any U.S. attack on Greenland would effectively end NATO as it currently exists. Danish officials have stated clearly that Greenland is not a bargaining chip, and that Denmark would defend its territory, if necessary, even against its closest ally. In Greenland itself, the reaction has been overwhelmingly negative. Political leaders, labor unions, and civil organizations have repeatedly stated that Greenland is not for sale. A 2025 public opinion poll showed that 85% of Greenlanders oppose becoming part of the United States, reflecting deep concern about cultural survival, political autonomy, and external control. The diplomatic fallout has spread quickly across Europe. 8 major U.S. allies, including France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, issued a rare joint statement reaffirming Denmark's sovereignty over Greenland. The message was carefully worded, but unmistakable. Any attempt to seize territory by coercion would face unified resistance within the alliance. Security analysts warn that the crisis exposes a deeper vulnerability within NATO. If one member openly threatens the territory of another, the credibility of the alliance itself comes into question. Smaller nations are watching closely, concerned that precedent could erode protections they rely on in an increasingly unstable global environment. Russia and China, though largely silent publicly, are widely believed to be monitoring the situation with interest. A divided NATO weakens Western deterrence in the Arctic, a region already experiencing increased military activity. Any internal conflict among allies could create strategic openings that rival powers are eager to exploit. Within the United States, reactions are mixed. Some lawmakers support Trump's aggressive posture, framing it as necessary realism in an era of great power competition. Others warn that threatening an ally undermines U.S. credibility, damages diplomatic trust, and risks triggering conflicts that could spiral far beyond Greenland. Legal experts also raise serious questions. Annexation without consent would violate international law and multiple treaties the U.S. has signed. Even negotiated arrangements could face constitutional challenges, especially if they involve long-term military commitments or financial obligations without congressional approval. Public opinion across NATO countries is shifting. Trust in American leadership, already strained, faces further erosion. The idea that alliance membership no longer guarantees territorial security has unsettled policymakers who built their defense strategies around U.S. reliability and restraint. Upcoming talks between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Danish officials are now seen as critical. These discussions are expected to determine whether diplomacy can contain the crisis or whether positions have hardened beyond compromise. Expectations are low, but the stakes could not be higher. For Greenland, the moment is existential. Decisions made thousands of miles away threaten to redefine its future without its consent. The island's leaders face pressure from global powers while trying to preserve the voice of a small population suddenly placed at the center of world politics. What began as an ambitious geopolitical proposal has evolved into a test of international norms. The Greenland annexation pushed challenges assumptions about sovereignty, alliance loyalty, and the limits of power in a multipolar world. How this unfolds may redefine not only Arctic politics, but the rules governing global order. As tensions rise, one reality becomes clear. Greenland is no longer just a remote, icy territory. It has become a symbol of strategic competition, of alliance strain, and of a world where even the strongest partnerships are no longer immune to fracture. The outcome will echo far beyond the Arctic.